morning. My name is Megan Edwards of Focus Communications, and today we're getting the latest updates from Kuya Silver, which trades on the Canadian Stock Exchange under the symbol KUYA. Joining me once again is Kuya's President and CEO, David Stein. David, thanks for coming on the show today.
Thanks for having me today, Megan.
So before we jump into yesterday's news, could you give our listeners a brief overview of Kuya Silver and your two district scale silver properties?
Sure. I think we're unique in the fact that we have not one but two great silver projects that we give our investors exposure to. Both are active. The Bethania project in Peru is one that is more advanced. We're putting it back into production, as we've talked about in the past. And there's lots of work going on site right now. It's also a huge exploration package around the mine that we think is going to make this project a lot bigger over the coming years. So it's an exciting project. Today we're talking about Silver Kings, our project in Northern Ontario that's right in the heart of the cobalt camp, where a lot of high-grade silver and cobalt has been produced over the last 120 years. So yeah, those are our projects. Both of our projects give investors a lot of news flow, a lot of opportunities to see the company creating value for them. Both with the development of Bethania, which you can see on the yellow line there, and all the milestones that we're working towards there, and also all the exploration we're doing at both projects, Silver Kings and Bethania, on the red lines at the top there. So we've got a lot of different ways that we can create value for investors, and that's what makes, I think, Kuya a really extraordinary investment opportunity in the junior space.
Yesterday, the company announced your final results from the second phase of drilling around the Campbell-Crawford Target area at the Kerr project. Can you briefly talk to the Kerr area targets where the company has been focused on over the last year?
Sure. So the Kerr area is kind of the northern part of our much larger district scale land package. And it's, relatively close to the town of Cobalt. And it includes the Kerr Lake mining area, where there were, a handful of mines that produced about 60 million ounces over the life of those mines in the previous decades. So that's kind of our starting point, and we've been generating targets and drilling on this property now, going back to especially early last year when we made the big new discovery at Campbell-Crawford. If you look at this map that I'm showing, this is just a blow up of that, essentially the northern section of our property package. All the stars on that map are existing or past producing mines. And then the circles are targets that Kuya has generated. And a lot of these targets have been generated very recently based on our new model for drilling blind targets at depth, which we're proving out to be successful with Campbell-Crawford, and now with another discovery that I'll talk about in a second.
Absolutely. Now let's talk about your latest drill results, where the company announced some more Bonanza grade mineralization at Campbell-Crawford. But we also saw results from the first drill hole at the Airgiod target. Can you walk us through the results from this release?
Sure. As you mentioned, there's really kind of two parts to the results. At the main Campbell-Crawford zone, we had one of our best ever intersections in terms of high grade, also within a much thicker zone, over 3 meters of pretty nice mineralization. So that was one of the holes we announced. I think just as important as that that splashy hole is really what we're seeing there in terms of the expansion of the mineralized zone. If you go back to our discovery, and even going back to the summer when we were working on surface here, we really only had the two veins that we knew about for sure, which was the Angus vein, where the original discovery was, and the McNamara vein, which is parallel to it. You can see on this map all those red lines. Now we've got, there's actually 7, I'll count them for you, 7 veins that we've got that we can actually map from hole to hole. And then we've got a number of probably another 4 or 5 veins that we've hit in just a single hole that we haven't correlated between holes yet. So we're starting to see this real network of this vein mineralization. It really doesn't start until you go below the diabase, maybe a little bit on the contacts, maybe a little bit above, but mainly below the diabase. and then it just kind of spreads out from there. All of these veins, and especially the vein intersections, become really high priority targets for us. Obviously, or you can imagine, a vein intersection is where you can have additional porosity, additional open space for the mineralization to occur. And we definitely are seeing that with some of our early drilling here. So we're really liking what we're seeing here. It's open in all directions, and and it's really looking more like one of the big traditional cobalt Ontario mines, like the Kerr Lake mine to the south, or one of the mines around the town of Cobalt itself. Almost universally, these mines are hosted by a whole network of veins, some bigger, some smaller, but all kind of intersecting with one another. And that's really the sort of the secret to success here in this camp, in our view. So we're really starting to see that with the main target, the Campbell-Crawford Target, which is excellent news. Now, if we move over to the left-hand part of the slide, over here, we've got this Airgiod property, so the blue property there, and we drilled one hole from the kind of the Campbell-Crawford side of this lake, going north. We were trying to hit the Clark vein, which would be somewhere around here that we mapped at surface last summer, and we actually hit a different vein. So this was a new discovery as well. We call the Moran vein. It's really exciting to now go after a second blind target in this area and be successful on our first hole. That's fantastic news. This hole itself had our highest ever cobalt assay at 1.64%, and it had some nice silver, several hundred grams silver as well on top of that. So very, very exciting discovery there, and yeah, I mean, it's that's what you want when you drill basically kind of a wildcat step out hole and you hit mineralization. Really proves the model, and it's really great news for this project.
Absolutely. And I know it's early days at Airgiod, but are you looking at this as a new discovery, or could it be an extension to some of the veining network you're seeing at Campbell-Crawford?
Well, we really don't know the answer to that yet, to be perfectly honest. If people who have watched my videos in the past recall that we've talked about a potential fault going through here, going through the lake, but we really didn't hit that fault with this drill hole. So that could mean that the fault is dipping this way, and we are basically drilling along the edge of it there, and just didn't actually go through the fault. Or it could mean the fault could be like over here. It could be just off. And what that means is that you wouldn't expect, or you'd expect maybe almost like a new vein system to be to the west of this fault, kind of controlled by these structures here. So what this could mean is that this is really an extension, even though it's on this property here, it's really an extension of the same Campbell-Crawford area. And it's extending, 250 meters to the west there, or it could be a separate, distinct zone, and maybe there's something in the middle here blocking it. We don't really know yet.
Now, a big takeaway from our previous interviews is that this district is full of these very high-grade deposits that mostly cover a small footprint. You've intercepted significant mineralization on your first hole at Airgiod. I know this is a significant land package, but do you feel like your team now has an understanding of the regional mineralization for future programs?
So if we go back to our sort of our larger property map, all of those targets that I just mentioned are all in this upper area here, in a relatively small area of this 30-kilometer belt that we have, pretty much staked from north to south. When we look at our this model of drilling below the diabase for blind silver cobalt targets, we have a couple up here. We've got Airgiod, Campbell-Crawford. North Drummond actually fits that category, and we haven't drilled that for a couple of years now, and we've got some great historical results from that target as well. And then down here, we're quite excited about a couple of the prospects down here in the Silver Center area. This was a decent sized mining camp. About just about 30 million ounces was produced from this area historically, and we do see some other opportunities where there could be mineralization below the diabase there that was missed in the past. So we've got a couple of targets there that we will do more work on and then get them drill ready as well. So we could have 4 or 5 potentially targets in the near term that could be ready to drill, including ones we're already drilling. And of course, there's likely to be many others as we go methodically through our land package. We're seeing more and more opportunities to find these to make these discoveries.
Thanks, David. And to cap things off, are there any final thoughts on Silver Kings that you'd like to leave with our listeners?
Sure. It's still a very early days at Silver Kings. We made basically a single hole discovery earlier on in the year. We've now followed that up with several other holes that really demonstrate that the high grade mineralization is significant. It's definitely extending well beyond where we drilled originally. And I think it's important just to look at the whole life cycle of a project here, and remember that it can take several years for a discovery to really be understood by the market and valued by the market. And I think we'd argue that we're still in the early days there with Silver Kings and with the Campbell-Crawford discovery. So we've got a lot of potential upside here as we continue to drill it out. We put more meat on the bone, and there's a lot of growth for this project for investors in the coming years, which is really exciting. Obviously, that's what you want to. You're investing in Kuya to make money. And I think we've got a great opportunity there to make our shareholders money with Silver Kings, as well as putting Bethania in production.
Absolutely. Well, thanks again for your time today, David. And we're looking forward to having you back on with additional updates very soon.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.